Hey guys, welcome to my 2018 post Konopiste in the bag. Let's see what I was throwing. It's been about 2 weeks since it all went down at Konopiste. To be a major champion is something truly that I'm honored to be. Just to know that all the work that I put in has paid off, it really legitimizes what I do. But of course, with great accolades, it all comes down to the tools. Let's see what discs I use to make it happen. Starting out with the putters. For the Konopiste Open, I used the Imperial Eagle Glow P-Line P2. I think I had one of my best putting performances ever at a tournament with these putters. So yeah, I carry 3 of them. The one that I use primarily for the event is this kind of black and gray stamp. I've had this in my bag probably for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and I'm usually the kind of guy who likes a newer, fresher putter, but there's something about the Imperial Eagle that I really like. It beats in at a slower pace since it's a P-line plastic, and it just has a really nice, consistent glide and fade to the left. So I also have one that's a little bit more beat up. I use it for putts maybe outside of 20 to 25 meters, jump putt approaches. And shout out to Allegra Archer, my Beaver State Fling doubles partner. We were playing doubles and she was putting with an Imperial Eagle. And since it was getting kind of beat in, it was pretty new, I complimented her like, this disc feels really great. Do you want to trade something for it? And she just handed it over. So I pretty much only use it for warm-up putting, but I'm actually starting to transition to this putter. So the tournament's coming up later in this season. I'll probably be using the one that Allegra gave to me. So Glow P-Line P2, just overall a phenomenal putter. It's kind of transformed my putting game. And yeah, I really, really love the way this disc feels in my hand. Now, I carry 2 P3Xs. At Konopiste, there's a lot of kind of, you throw a lot of long-range drives and it kind of leaves you with maybe I don't know, 200 feet, 100-meter upshots. So it's a disc that's really important, just something that you can kind of throw kind of hard, flip up to straight, rely on a kind of consistent fade. I have 2 P3Xs, one of them's D-line. I've had this one in the bag for maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. And the funny thing with the D-line is they actually start off being the most overstable. But of course, since it's D-line plastic, it beats in and it becomes straighter and straighter. So this being 4 or 5 months in my bag now, it's actually super straight. I can kind of throw it on any line and it'll hold whatever angle I put on it. So it's kind of my go-to right now, just super controllable. D-line plastic is a great feel in the hand, and I feel like I can control almost any shot with this disc. An S-line, it is really overstable, but I probably use it for shots that are a little bit lower power. I'm never really throwing this disc too hard. It's basically for maybe I don't know, 150, 200 foot approach shot that I know I need to go straight and maybe carry a little bit left. Maybe slight nose up, kind of stall approach shots. It's a lower profile as well, so I can rely on it for maybe touch forehand approaches. Overall, the S-Line P3X has kind of a really long lifespan since it's in a quality plastic, and I really enjoy this disc. But one thing I want to note is the die on this disc. Shout out to my friend Mike Kemp, also known as Quotesarock86 on Instagram. This isn't the only die I have in my bag by him, but he hooks me up with some pretty sweet artwork, and I really appreciate all the work he does. All right, my mid-ranges. First off, no surprise, it's a utility mid-range. It's something that I use all the time, is the Innova Champion Glow Gator. This disc, there's pretty much always a time during the round where I reach for this disc. whether it be just for a scramble shot out of trees, a shot where there might be a little bit of a headwind that I don't really feel like throwing a putter. At this point, the one that I have is pretty beat up, so it flies a lot straighter than you might think, but it still has that gator finish that we all are familiar with. So the gator, just all around, just a really versatile disc that pretty much, it doesn't really matter what company you're playing for or whatever, you're probably gonna have a disc like this in your bag. For Konopiste, I really didn't throw too many mid-ranges. I think maybe, I don't even know, maybe 3 or 4 times, but it just really didn't call for it. So I actually only had these 2 in my bag at the time, but usually I like to carry 4. The 4 that I do carry, I carry 2 standard glow MD3s. This is the oldest disc in my bag at this point. I think it might be like 3 or 4 years old. I think, yeah, I had this in my first in the bag, and at that time it was overstable, but now this is the most understable thing. Pretty much throw it at 50–60% power. It just flips right to flat. I'm throwing it backhand for slight turnovers, forehand for just kind of controlled touch shots, maybe from a knee, scramble shots. That's the European Open Wolverine Edition Glow MD3. This is another Glow MD3, a little bit later run, a little bit more domey. Dos Loomis gave it to me at a kind of a dark point in my life, and he kind of helped me get back into disc golf. Love the game again, so this disc is kind of special to me. It's pretty much, it's slightly understable. I mostly throw it for hyzer flip shots, primarily in the woods. The 2 mid-ranges that I'm pretty much using the most now are the Color Glow MD3s. I have one from the previous run. It's really flat. This one's pretty much dead straight, maybe a little bit understable. Feels really great for forehands, and it has a really low profile, really flat top. It can really get some nice control shots, hyzer flip forehands. Backhands, pretty much the same thing, hyzer flip, slight turnovers. Probably my one that I reach for in any wooded situation. And the new release, the Color Glow Sea Line Crowned Eagle. This is the most overstable MD3 in my bag, which it's not really even that overstable. It's straight to slight fade. I really like the feel of this disc just because I can put it on whatever angle I want and it's gonna hold that. If I throw it flat, it'll hold straight, maybe with a slight finish left. But the thing I really like about it, I don't really like throwing like an MD4 or maybe something a little bit more overstable, because one, I can just reach for an FD3, just power down a little bit. That, and I really only throw mid-range shots when I really kind of need to throw a mid-range shot. I'm not really searching for holes where I can maybe power up on a mid-range. It's pretty much just throwing the shot that's in front of me. So the Crowned Eagle does that. Throwing it on a steep hyzer, it will not flip. It's just pretty much exactly what you want a mid-range disc to do. And yeah, I really like the artwork. It's my signature series disc. Yeah, just overall, it's awesome. Okay, now jumping into the drivers. First off, I want to tell you about my 2 kind of anomaly drivers. First off, I have a D-Line FD. This disc is incredibly understable. Pretty much any angle you throw it on, it's going to want to cut right if you're a right-handed backhand thrower, and roll, do all sorts of kind of trick shot things. This thing pretty much only comes out when I'm throwing rollers or maybe some like really tricky shots in the woods, grenades, just a true utility disc. The other one, on the complete other side of the spectrum, the Metal Flake Max. Absolutely probably the most overstable disc I have ever thrown. Complete utility as well. There's really not a headwind that this disc cannot fight. Pretty much whenever I need something with minimal glide and the most stability possible. I'm reaching for the max. It's really good for power backhand shots, power forehand shots. The amount of skip this disc creates is unlike anything I've really ever seen. So pretty much the complete sides of the spectrum, being completely understable and completely overstable. I have a C-line FD. This disc, I don't really throw it too much. It's pretty much only for when I get into a really wooded situation where I need a lot of control. It's not that overstable. In fact, it's kind of understable, so it's really easy to just throw at low power to kind of finesse through trees, whether it be a backhand or a forehand shot. And for a backhand, I'm really only throwing a fan grip on this disc. So FD is a great disc if you're just starting out. If you're a long-time player, you can kind of find a use for this in any situation. Now to probably one of the most important fairway drivers in my bag. At Konopiste, it kind of required a lot of sidearm shots and a lot of kind of shots where you need pinpoint accuracy with an overstable finish. And the disc that I used for that is the FD3. This is a pretty integral part of my bag. For the event, I carried 4 in my bag, ranging from somewhat overstable to very overstable, because I mean the FD3, it's meant to be an overstable control fairway driver. So the first one I'll tell you about is the Luster C-line. The reason I throw the Luster, it's similar to a PD, but it's a little bit more overstable and a little bit less glide. So it's just a really comfortable feel in the hand. It has that classic FD3, that rim, so it's really something that I'm used to. I pretty much only threw this one for a little bit longer distance forehands, since it does have a little bit more glide than the other FD3s. So if I'm kind of in between a PD2 or maybe something a little bit slower, this is the disc that I'm throwing. The next one, the funny thing is, like, this FD3, another Esa Arokki Mike Kemp dyed disc. You got a little Grateful Dead, I would say reinvent your face going on here. Love this dye. This one I really don't use for forehands or sidearms all that often. It just feels more comfortable throwing backhand with. I don't really know what it is. It just, sometimes you got to go by feel, and this disc feels better for backhand than sidearm. But I threw this a pretty decent amount out there. Just a lot of overstable approaches, maybe some flex shots. Yeah, the Glow FD3 is just a really nice complement to the other ones I have in my bag. Now probably my favorite one. I'm not sure what run it is. I think it might be like pre-Doombird S-Line FD3. For some reason, this one came out really flat. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of like scribbles and drawings on it. My friend Claire gave this to me, and I don't know, it's just it's something special. It's really great for forehands. It feels good for backhands. It's not the most overstable FD3, but it has this really consistent fade that I really enjoy. I think probably for, I'd say maybe a good 60 to 70% of my sidearm shots for the Konopiste Open, I was using this disc, and it really never failed me. Just that flat top, slight gummy feel, just felt overall really comfortable in the hand. The last FD3, this older run, as I like to call it, peach colored FD3. It's a little bit domey, it's a little bit stiffer. It's the most overstable FD3 in my bag. Pretty much I could throw this as hard as I want, and I know it's gonna come back left. I think I only threw it on hole 1 out at Konopiste, just because I wanted something that I could kind of force over on an anhyzer, and I know it would fight back to being safe. So this FD3 was kind of just a little bit more utility than anything else. A disc that I just recently put in the bag for the Konopiste Open. This isn't the one I was throwing. Actually, in Finland, I've been doing a little fantasy doubles tour. A practice round, I threw my other one in the water, so I had to put a new one in the bag. But it's Discmania C-Line CD2. I really like the CD2. It complements a PD, which I'll be telling you about next. It's actually a lot more glidey. I think the glide's at 5, so almost an uncomfortable amount of glide at times, but I really like this disc for rollers or kind of shots that I need to sweep really far left. If you know how to take advantage of the glide and know your angles with this disc, it can be a really useful disc that not a lot of other people will have a shot that a CD2 can replicate in their game. Now my favorite kind of control driver. I reach for this disc almost every single time out there. I actually throw these in place of PD2s a lot more often because they still get really great distance. They are very controllable. I carry 2 of them in my bag, 2 different kinds of plastic. I'll tell you about the S-Line first. I have an S-Line PD. I think it's the latest run. This latest run is probably the most overstable version of the S-Line. S-Lines are usually known to be a little bit less overstable than the C-Line, their kind of counterpart. This thing, it's beat up enough to where I can just throw it with a little bit of snap. It'll flip up, glide straight, and have a pretty consistent fade left. But pretty much it's a really workable disc that if I ever find myself maybe throwing anywhere 350 feet plus, I'm reaching for this disc. Super controllable, really love the kind of softer feel of it. Can really get my hand dug into the disc and just find great control. And now probably one of my favorite discs in my bag, Ian Millard, good friend of mine, hooked it up, first run C-Line PD. The first run, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them, but if you're not, they are the flattest and most overstable run of the C-Line ever made. So with my power, I really like just a flat feel and just a stability that I know I can trust. I throw this for fan grips, power grips. Pretty much if I need to put a shot down the fairway 400 to 450 feet, I'm reaching for this disc. I can throw it nice and hard. It'll fly straight most of the way and then just kind of dump left. It's a real important disc over this past season, just knowing that I can throw it pretty much with pinpoint accuracy. Probably one of my favorite discs ever. Now, the high-speed guys, I'm pretty sure all you guys know what they are. Right now, I think there's 7 in the bag. It kind of varies depending on the course, but for Konopiste, I had 7. Let's talk about the PD2. First, I mean, if you see the stack, it basically goes from flippy to stable. So I have an S-Line PD2. It's the first run of S-Line that they stopped using the Chaos artwork. At this point, it's been in my bag for just over a year now. It's actually that's pretty old for considering that I like to change out my discs pretty often. Kind of a softer feel, a little bit flatter. This is what I use for my rollers or kind of control backhand shots, lower power. It has a lot of glide, and for those of you who've probably thrown a PD2, it's kind of hard to get a PD2 to glide or go right. I've seasoned this disc in to be almost destroyer-like, so it's really important knowing that I have something in my bag like this, really good for tailwind, pretty much anything where I want to throw a little bit lower power or a roller. Now I have one of the ugliest discs ever, a swirly S-Line PD2. It's pretty much the same time frame as when these came out, it's just in swirly plastic, and we all know that swirly plastic is beautiful and we like it, but this one's not that beautiful. It actually got totally scribbled on. I found it in a box in a Discmania warehouse, and oh boy, they scribbled on it because I think it was warped, but I don't like to give up hope on discs if they get warped. You can always bring them back, put them out in the sun, they'll fix themselves. But this disc, it's pretty much exclusively for forehand / sidearm shots. It's just one of those things. You just got to go by feel. And fun fact, this is actually the one I had my throw-in at GBO with. So that long throw-in, I think it got on Sports Center or ESPN, if that. This is the disc that I throw. Just a really kind of controllable forehand, a little bit less stable than your classic PD2. Just a really important disc for me to have. Now I have the latest run of S-Line PD2. These are my long-range flyers. They're both the same run, except this one is black ink disc stamp. Shout out to them. They did a really good job on this year's version of my Signature Series stamp, so always love the support by them. These just basically complement each other. I think they fly about essentially the same, but it's basically just when I need to kind of open up, if there's not too much out of bounds. They're a little bit less stable, but they have a really nice amount of glide. So yeah, whenever I need a shot to go far down the fairway, I'm reaching for one of these new S-Line PD2s. Another PD2, so many PD2s. This gray swirly S-Line. It's from the latest run of Swirl. The guys in the US may have not found too many of these because the Swirl run mostly went to the Innova store in Europe. So I was lucky to get my hands on a few, and it actually turned out to be a really great run. What I'm about to tell you about is the Hypno Huck. It's kind of a little bit less stable than that, but still a PD2, so really consistent fade. This one I throw pretty much exclusively for hyzer shots. I can throw it on I can throw it flat to maybe a little bit of a hyzer, maybe a 45-degree angle. It glides left real nicely, and yeah, it's pretty much the disc that I'm reaching for if I need accuracy with a backhand. And I also throw it forehand as well when I need something a little bit more overstable. Now, I don't have Trixie in the bag anymore. I know a lot of you who can probably relate to that. This thing actually took its place. Trixie's not lost, it's actually retired, but it's a Hypno Huck PD2. A fan gave it to me, so shout out to you. I'm sorry I don't remember your name right now, but this is probably this is my second most overstable PD2. It still gets pretty good distance, but it has that overstability that I can always trust. So whenever I'm getting a little bit of a headwind or some sort of funky condition, I'm reaching for this because I know that it probably won't be affected. Last PD2 in the bag, I have a Metal Flake. It's the most overstable PD2 and it has the least amount of glide. Pretty much only throwing this for shots maybe a little bit lower ceiling, headwinds, forehand shots where I know need to go really hard right. Most headwinds won't flip this disc. I'm not going to say it's the most overstable disc ever, but you really shouldn't have to worry about this disc flipping over. So it's really nice to have that kind of security in your bag. I also want to tell you about something that's important in every tournament for me. For some reason, I get really sweaty hands, and you can't really find consistency on the course when you're gripping a disc with wet hands. So in order to fix that, I carry a whole little bag of whale sacks. I think I have 5 of them here. Whale Sacks is a company by my good friend Tina Stenitis. She makes them all handmade. If you are ever kind of losing grip out on the course, it's a bag filled with dirt, so it's a really great way to fix those sweaty palms, get a really good grip on your disc. And the really cool thing about what she does is she gets custom fabric. Like, as you can see, I have one with my eagle logo on it, one with Eric Oakley's face on it, Grateful Dead. So they're really customizable, and it's really just supporting a great cause. I love supporting my friends out there, and they're great products. So whale sacks are essential for my success out on the course. That was my 2018 post Konopiste in the bag. Still got a lot of season left, so these are probably the discs that will help me kind of finish out my year. So I just want to say thank you for being along the journey with me, and until next time, keep on dreaming.